I keep wondering, what would this experience have been, Belva, if they had all been on board with this whole idea? Not to pump Ron Dellums up. When you're 75 years old, who cares about what somebody else thinks? But the point of it is, we were going on an incredible journey. And I truly believe that residents of Oakland really needed to know what that was all about. But when you're selling newspapers and you want to play games and you reduce things, you don't do the hard work of finding out what's really going on. And HIV/AIDS, particularly in the Bay Area, is an enormous thing. But where was the press that said, look, these folks in a very innovative way are trying to address these issues? Reentry, major problem. What are these folks trying to do? Green Jobs Corps, the challenges of climate change, what are they doing? Model City, what are they really doing? That's the point that I'm trying to make. And again, because I have thought many times about the conversation you and I had, and I have to tell you the truth, I said Belva was right. She was absolutely right. I was very naive. And because I don't think people really truly know. I remember the last State of the City, I thought I was talking for 30 minutes. My staff said, you talk for almost 2 hours. And I said, my God, I've never given a speech that long. But then it dawns on me, why did I have to talk for 2 hours? Because there was no place else that people were getting this information. And that's sad, and it's very tragic. And as somebody who loves this community, as somebody who truly committed to public service, I can say that to you, straightforward and very honest. I felt that this community got let down. And people get mobilized based on ignorance. And people think, well, nothing was done. They bang the table. Because people are busy living their lives in some kind of way that information needs to get to them.
Well, you know, we live in a different era now. We communicate in a different way. We have Twitter now, 15 seconds and a few limited words, and that's all you will get on that subject because of the way the system works. You go to a TV news program, there are very few in-depth interview programs, but there are constant reminders of little factoids and little bits of information. In a way, I think that you and the man in the White House today have similar problems. You're both organizers, you're both community people, and you're both thinkers, and you want everybody to be involved with you in thinking these things true. But maybe that is not the era right now. Maybe the glory of the 60s and 70s when we wanted to know passed. Had you thought about just the way we communicate?
Well, yeah. And what I decided was that what energy that I had, I was going to put that energy into problem solving. And maybe that was a mistake because there are many people that like you to try to govern by press conference. I don't think you get anything done governing by press conference. Now, to see your face every day, that may be comforting, but it's not doing anything. And I'm saying, if you see me on TV 24/7, that means I'm not doing my job. And I need to be doing my job rather than worrying about that. But maybe at the end of the day, you got to strike a happy medium. But I'm a fighter. And my job was to stand up based on the things that I believe in. I'm willing, you got to be willing to lose. You got to be willing to risk defeat based on the things that you truly believe in. And we kept going forward. And the thing that I'm proud of is, with all of the craziness that was surrounding us in this period, all the pettiness and all of that, they never broke us, Belva. They never made me bow my head. They never made me sell out. They never made me compromise. And at the end of the day, my hope is that if people take the time to sit down and really go through the record, not based on what some off-the-wall opinion maker, lazy journalist wanted to talk about, but the real issues, then they'll go, wow, we had no idea. Because when we start talking with people, then they go, ah, I had no idea. And I said, well, the sad part about it is the people responsible for communicating that information to you let you down. Now, again, I go back and say, Belva was probably more correct than I was, because he said, Ron, they're never going to tell your story. You got to tell your story yourself. But in this era, if you tell your story, suddenly you're blowing your own horn.
I have to interrupt you a while.
Go ahead.
I'm going back to a speech well, not a speech, but another interview you had with a professor from UC Berkeley back in year 2000, the year they named the chair for you at Berkeley. And in that interview, Professor Kriesler said, again and again, you've turned around the words that people used against you. Your answer was, if I was going to survive, I couldn't let other people define who I am. It's important for you to define who you are rather than to allow other people to define you. You're saying tonight you still believe that?
I still believe that. And I believe that you can't let somebody else define who you are. Now, defining the job that we did, you know, the work that we did, I felt that that's objective. Look at it. I'm prepared to be held accountable. But as I said, I remember one day I came home and I had a fight because somebody called me a dirty black African, and we got into a big fight. I get home and I couldn't wait to tell my mother that I had stood up. So she said, wait a minute, let me take off my coat and sit down. She said, now why'd you fight this guy? I said, because he called me a dirty black African. My mother looked at me and said, you may not understand this, but I want you to remember this conversation. She said, if you had to fight, and that's a decision you have to make because I can't be with you because this person called you dirty, if that was enough to make you angry, that's one thing. But to call you black, you are a member of the black race. Because he called you African, you are a person of African descent. And everywhere you go in this world, if somebody calls you black African, I want you to stand up to the full extent of your height and say with great pride, yes, I am. She said, but I want to tell you something else. You're 998 other adjectives as well. You're 1,000 adjectives. These two take great pride in. You know. So I learned that lesson, and I'm never going to let somebody else define who I am. Who are you? Who are you to define who I am? You know, most of us don't even know the people we live with every day. How do you know somebody that you don't live with? How do you know somebody that you only see a tweak in the newspaper or a line in the internet and you say, gee, well, I know that person? How incredibly arrogant and audacious that is. Like I said, many of us don't even know the people we live with 24/7. So somebody said, well, you know, I want to write an article so that people would know you. I said, sir, you could live with me for 10 years and not totally know who I am. How do you think an article, you know, you're going to sit down and know me? You'll never know me, sir. I'm a complicated human being, just as I would never know you. And I would not allow you to define who I am. I am who I am. And I'm a fighter. I believe in something. I feel strongly about things. And I have principles and I have integrity. And that I choose to try to push forward with these ideas. And if you want to join in this effort, then communicate to people. You know, but if you want to spend your time trying to define who I am, that's a waste of time, and frankly, it's lazy journalism because it doesn't allow you to really get in here and understand what's going on and communicate to people what's going on. That's my great lament. You know, as I said, how incredible could this have been if instead of playing the petty politics game, people would have come with us and really start to try to communicate to the residents of Oakland. Last point on that. Here's my fear as a small d Democrat. I worry about the democratic process because if people hear constantly, the government is broke, politicians are this and this and this and this, and then you wonder why people don't show up. When every day you're smashing their hopes and their dreams, you're killing their inspiration, you're retarding their ability to engage in the process, and then you come, it's sort of like you whistle on one end of, you know, of the tunnel, and then you hear it on the other and said, see, I told you the whistle was coming, but you're listening to yourselves. And I think that that's what is beginning to happen in America, is that we're dumbing down the American people and that we're forcing a hostile dialogue that's rooted in ignorance. And I see that nationally, but I also see it here, and that's very sad. Oakland is an incredible place. There's tremendous talent here in Oakland. And over the past 4 years, people in Oakland did some extraordinary things against the backdrop of an unprecedented economic downturn over which we had no control. But even in that environment, we did some great things. But where do you see it?
Yeah. Well, let's button this down with the most common thing that's been said on the negative side about you, that you've not been accessible. Do you think that you've not been accessible?
No, well, let me make 3 points. First of all, earlier I mentioned to you that when I spoke the day that I agreed to do this, I said I lost one family. Politics is a jealous mistress. I know what it is to have my children grow up and I not know them. People often don't think about the price that's paid, because everything you do, you pay a price for it, whatever you do. And in public life, there's a price. And we all have the scars of all of that, okay? So I said publicly, sometimes people have short memories, but I said, I will not risk that again. I will answer the call to service. But I don't want to end up 5 years from now with that stereotype notion when politicians say, well, and I want to thank the tired, lonely wife for being at my side to allow me to serve. No, I don't want to have my life destroyed again to destroy another family. I love my wife. I respect her. She is my partner, my mate in this journey together, all right? So I didn't want that to happen. So instead of being at every mail opening or running around, I wanted to keep my family cohesive. That's a price nobody in the community should ever have to ask a public servant to destroy their family on the altar of politics. We're all just simple human beings. At the end of the day, there's no, you know, you slap me, I hurt, you cut me, I bleed. These are very real things. And if people begin to see the humanity in the people that come to serve, then maybe we don't have to be so brutal. Well, I don't see you. So you rather for you to, I said, if you see me all the time, then what am I doing? And and on the one hand, I wanted to keep my personal life intact, and at the same time, I wanted to be able to think and to be deliberative and to work. And I think at the end of the day, those things redound to the benefit of Oakland, whether people wrote about it or not.
Well, let's talk about one of the most important things that any government leader has to worry about today, and that is the portfolio, within the portfolio, a balance sheet. So how have you managed in these times of cuts and scarce resources to hold it together for Oakland?
Yeah. Well, several things. First of all, as you know, the charter requires that we present a balanced budget. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I've sort of not so humorously said, we don't have the luxury of printing money at the local level. So you got to balance the budget. On the one hand, we try to do that with thoughtfulness and care. And I love to learn, eager to learn. I love learning. I've been in love with learning since I was a kid. So sitting with our budget people, sitting with our folks, these are the problems we have. My job as CEO was to say, here are our priorities based on our vision. These are things we cannot sacrifice on the altar of budget cutting, all right? So we've got to figure out how to do this in a way that is humane, do it in a way that has integrity, do it in a way that is significant and important. Remember, a couple of years ago, in my State of the City, I said, we're going to get to 803 police officers. It had never been done in the history of Oakland. In 11 months, we got to 836. Magically, what happened? In a balance of prevention and intervention and sustainability efforts, we put that together, the crime rate and the homicide rate started to drop. Well, when we got into the budget crunch, which had nothing to do with Oakland, this was a global meltdown, a national economic catastrophe that we're all still reeling from. All right, our revenues went down, many things went down. Even in that atmosphere, we got $19.8 million from the COPS program that saved 41 police officers. We got the highest grant in the entire United States, because we went back to the Justice Department and said, we're a poster child for what you want to do. We're committed to community policing and et cetera. So that was very helpful. Accessing much of these monies, even though you can't use them to balance your own budget, has, and I think will continue to have some impact.